Hey, Loving Freaks, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Amanda.
And I'm Hannah.
And if you're new here, hi, welcome. If you like things strange and unusual and true crime, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button. You can also head down to the description box, and you'll see a link that will take you to our link tree, and you can find all our social media there, like Instagram, Twitter, all that jazz.
And all that jazz.
Yeah. Well, it's almost Christmas. We got another week.
Mm-hmm.
So
excited.
Yeah. Even though it's hot as 5 hells here in Mississippi.
Yep.
It's currently 7 o'clock at night and it's 66 degrees. Where are you guys from? Is it cold where you're at? Probably. Unless you're in the South. Then it's not.
Was the high 80 today?
I think it was like 75, 76.
Okay.
But it felt like it was like 100. It was hot. It was really hot. So yeah, it's great. If you're not from the South, if you're from a different country, you might also be in the heat. If you're like, I don't know, we have some people from, I think we have some from, well, yeah, Australia. I'm trying to think of other warm places.
Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil. Yeah, so anyways. But it's almost Christmas. Next weekend, we should have one for you. We're going to try to do one on Christmas Eve, upload it, and then we're going to try to upload one on New Year's Eve. If we don't, then, obviously it's because we got too busy with family and things like that. But yeah, we'll try our best. All right, so today's case, if you saw the title, then you know what we're going to be talking about. Maybe, you may not, if you never heard of this one. If you've ever seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, it's a really good movie. This is what that movie was based off of. This is the case of Anneliese Michel. And she, spoiler alert, obviously, if you've seen the movie, she does pass away from an exorcism. And we're going to kind of talk about it. This won't be a very long one because there's not a whole lot about it. But this was a very controversial case because some people think that she suffered from mental illness. And some people think that she obviously was possessed by demons. So,
yeah. I've never seen the movie. Is it an older movie? Like what kind of?
That's a good question. So I think it's 2005. 2004, somewhere in there, but is when the movie was made. So yeah, it's an older movie. I was gonna be like, no, it's not that old. But I graduated in 07,
that's
so
what I was
to me
thinking
it's
too.
not
I was
old.
like, it's not too old.
So anyways, but yeah, so it's based off of that. It's a pretty good movie. It doesn't necessarily, like, there's differences between the movie and this. There are some similarities, but of course this happens over the course of like years, basically. So they had to like condense it down. So let's get started. Anneliese Michel was born September 21st, 1952 in Germany. So this takes place in Germany, and obviously the Exorcism of Emily Rose, it takes place in, I don't know, somewhere in America. But this happened in Germany. Her mother's name is Anne, and her father's name is Joseph. They raised their family as devout Catholics. A few years before Anneliese was born, her mother had a baby out of wedlock in 1948, and her name was Martha. Because of this, when her mother and father got married, her mother was forced to actually like wear black dress and like, it's kind of, having a baby out of wedlock, especially in the Catholic, like a big Catholic home, is like a no-no for sure. So they were kind of shunned a little bit from their family for that reason, but unfortunately Martha, who was the oldest, and then it was Anneliese, but Martha died at 8, so Anneliese was left to be the oldest child. She was the oldest. She had other younger sisters, but she was the oldest one. Her childhood church started moving away from Catholic traditions and Catholic practices as she got into her teens and stuff like that. So they kind of just stopped with, like communion, how they would take communion. They wouldn't walk up there anymore, and the priest wouldn't give it to them. They would just all sit in the chair and give it to themselves. There was other things that was changing. It was just becoming more modernized like it is today. But Anneliese, did not like that. She liked the traditional Catholic traditions, and so she actually moved to a different church that was still doing those things, and she would go there while her family went to the other church. She was a very devout Catholic, even at a young age. Anneliese was a sensitive girl and very loving towards others. She even, at one point, they said that when she was like a teenager, she found out that people were homeless, and she would atone for their sins, basically. Like, she would, like, if she knew that somebody was homeless and sleeping on the street, she would sleep on her floor, on the hard floor, because she wanted to atone and go through what they were going through. She was that type of person.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. She did, however, start having problems when she was about 16. She started blacking out during school and having seizures. She would have other things, too. There was a whole slew of things that she pretty much got diagnosed with. After this, her parents took her to the doctor, to a neurologist, and they diagnosed her with frontal lobe epilepsy, which can lead to muscle spasms, hallucinations. She also was diagnosed with another seizure disorder, so she had 2 different ones. And so this is kind of why this case is so widely debated, because a lot of people think that she just suffered from mental illness and seizures, and that's
the hallucination part. Makes sense.
And that's why she would flail about on the ground and all this other stuff. But there's more to it than that, and you'll see. In 1970, she was hospitalized for TB, tuberculosis, pneumonia, and tonsillitis all at the same time, which is insane to me that she made it through that. She took anticonvulsive drugs for her seizures during this time, and she would say that it really wasn't working. And one day, when she was in the hospital for treatment for her TB, and the other stuff that she had, she started seeing people's faces with like a devil face on their face, which that's in the movie as well, but she's at college. But whatever, she starts hallucinating like people having these like they would look at her and they would have like these faces that kind of looked like demons. And even like one time she was praying at a church, or she was somewhere, and the people that were praying around her were like gnashing their teeth, like biting on their teeth constantly, grinding their teeth, and they just looked like demons. So what's weird to me during all this is like every hallucination she has, though, has to deal with demons. Now, some people could say that's because she was very devout Catholic and that was what she was around a lot, and she eventually started believing that she was possessed. But I don't know, it's just really strange to me. Like, why wouldn't she hallucinate other things, you know?
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Axe murder or something. I don't know. But, you know, I just don't know. So she started praying, and she said that she thought that this was a warning sign that something bad was going to happen. Over the next 5 years, Anneliese would continue to take her medication for different seizures and different disorders, and nothing seemed to help. It only would get worse. Over time, she was getting depressed. She decided that she would just turn more into her prayers and into God for help. While praying one day, that was when she saw the demons on the people's faces, and she also would smell like a foul-smelling odor, almost like burning, like rotted flesh. Nobody else would smell it around her, though. One day when she was praying, she said that she had a vision that she was visited by the Virgin Mary. This is in the movie as well, but it's kind of towards the end. Mary told her, the Virgin Mary told her that she was going to be a victim soul and to atone for the priest and the youth that were moving away from the Catholic tradition of practice. So, meaning like they're not doing the traditional way, and she's going to atone. She's going to be the one that can atone for their sins. Mary then told her that she would be possessed by demons, multiple demons, to provide the world proof that Satan existed, and that they were not just like a metaphor, because at the time a lot of Catholic priests were also kind of just using demons as like a metaphor. Not that they ever were real, or they could ever come here and possess us, but they're just, they're in hell. They're like
for what? For our sins, or
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. She could know. So she told her that she was like, if you agreed, like in the vision, Virgin Mary said all this, and she said that she would agree to it, and she told the Virgin Mary that she would do it. After this, she could no longer look at pictures of Christ or crucifixes without her eyes burning. Her family, church community, and even she also like friends and everything like that even believed that she was possessed. They went to church and tried to get permission to get an exorcism, but the priests there wanted her to continue her psychiatric medication, and they didn't want to do the exorcism because they thought that she had an hallucination disorder. Catholic, like, I don't understand why. And I've heard somebody talk about this before. They were like, I don't understand why the Catholic community wouldn't do exorcisms no matter what. And I'm kind of the same way, because like,
well, there's a case that I really want to talk about one day. Going through that, there's a lot that the Catholic Church have to do, and there's the reason is because this case where this guy thought he was possessed, but he was not possessed. He just had mental, like, he was not okay. Yeah. The whole process of getting the demons out made him believe that he did have demons in him, and he never did. And because of that, he was like kind of brainwashed, and so he murdered his wife. I don't remember.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So basically,
because of that,
what you're saying is like, if someone has a mental disorder,
the Catholic Church really needs to, and also lawsuits. Yeah. Like if they get physically hurt or something, or it can brainwash somebody if they're really,
especially if they already have a mental disorder. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess I get that. Plus,
and they already know she has a mental disorder, so they're like, it's probably not demons.
Yeah,
so it's not.
She has some sort of seizure problem and hallucinations and all this. So, yeah, I get that. But so anyways, so they didn't believe that she needed an exorcism at that moment. Is what it boiled down to.
Yeah.
Despite all the things going on, though, in her life, she did graduate from high school, and then she started at a university where she wanted to become a teacher because her parents, everybody kind of thought that she had a really good, like, knack for being a teacher because she was so just loving and, just super nice person and all that. So everybody was around her was like, you should be a teacher. So that's what she went to school for, or went to college for. She mostly kept to herself at college, and she kind of wasn't very social. She continued to take treatments, but nothing seemed to help. Her health got worse while she was in college. She would barely eat. She would be seen kneeling and praying every day, and a lot of people would say that she was like doing like 400 kneels a day, praying on her knees. And there was some other stuff that started to happen. She would scream in her dorm room, and like sometimes she would have like hallucinations while she was in class. So eventually she started living back with her parents. When she moved back in with her parents, that was when things even got worse. Her parents would walk into her room, and this is a scene in in the movie as well. But her parents would walk back into the room, and they would see her eating spiders and flies and coal. I don't know what the coal was about, but she would also scream all hours of the day, and she stayed under tables, barking like a dog. Sometimes she would pee on the floor and lick up the urine. She would also pee in her underwear and then chew on the soaked urine underwear, like chew on it. She became more aggressive as time went on. She would rip off her clothes, saying that she was burning. Her skin was on fire. During an episode, she even bit off the head of a dead bird one time. So, yeah, I mean, this is pretty bad. And I don't understand why they didn't put her in a mental institution. They do eventually, but it takes some time to do that. And she doesn't stay in long, and we'll talk about that. So in the fall of 1973, she started taking new medication. Tegretol is what it was called. Because she tried all these different medications and nothing seemed to be working for her seizures. And she was still having these fits, so nobody really knew what was going on. But once again, nothing, this Tegretol didn't really seem to work. She had been on so many different medications, but she actually was also diagnosed with schizophrenia. So they did diagnose her with that, but that doesn't always cause these things, and the medication that she was on should have helped somewhat, because this is 1970. I mean, by this time there had been quite a number of schizophrenic people. We knew what it was by that time. I'm not sure in Germany, but here in America we did. So there was medications to help with that, you know. Because hell, I mean, in 1970s we had serial killers that were diagnosed with schizophrenia. So, I mean, we knew that what it was and how to help it. She continued to follow the advice of her doctors, though, for a long time. She and her family, everybody told her that she should. So, Father Alt finally decided to see Anneliese. He was the priest that did the exorcism, one of the priests. He spent a lot of sessions with her, and he believed that she was possessed. Even though he never saw her have an episode like this, he still believed that she was possessed. So he tried in 1974 to get her an exorcism, and the bishop said no. And there was a bunch of back and forth about that. And she also had a boyfriend. His name was Peter. I wanted to throw that in there. They weren't very sexual, but he did say that he saw a lot of her, or they weren't sexual at all, but he said that he did see a lot of her episodes. What does that sound?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry. That was a long pause.
Yeah, sorry. That sounded like
It sounded like somebody banging on the wall outside.
That was creepy.
That was creepy as fuck.
That's why I looked at you like that. I was like, about to piss myself. Okay, anyway.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, we took a small little break because we still don't know what that was, but that was really weird. That was really weird.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, so where was I? The bishop, however, wanted to do the exorcism. Finally agreed to do the exorcism. Finally, in 1975 is when he agreed, but he wanted to do it in secret. He didn't want anyone to know, and nobody could say anything, because obviously, I guess maybe since he thought it was mental illness, if something went wrong, nobody needed to know. But there are recordings of this exorcism because they had a recording in there so that way they could send it to the Vatican, because they always do that. But it wasn't for anybody else. However, you can find these recordings on YouTube if you so want to. So Father Alt and another priest named Father Enns, I don't know. I don't have his name written down right here, but I'll get there in a minute. So anyways, they were the ones that did it in the fall of 1975 was when they did the first exorcism. So obviously the exorcism was, she was, strapped down to the bed, or she was held down to the bed. It's your normal, typical stuff that you hear about in exorcisms. She was thrashing about, she was, moaning, and at this time they had not spoken with any of the demons, and there wasn't any sort of
Isn't there stages?
Yeah, there's different stages of possession.
Is there 7?
But there's not. Well, there's different stages of possession. There's not necessarily different stages of exorcism, but it's not like in the movies. So most of the time in the movies where we see they exorcise, they'll do 1 or 2 exorcisms the most. I mean, The Exorcist I think has, maybe they do 3 on her, but most of the time in real life, when they do exorcisms, it takes a lot. This is a bit excessive though, but over the next 10 months, so almost a full year, she would endure 67 exorcisms.
Damn.
And that's how many were performed on her. Each exorcism lasted at least an hour long. One of them lasted 4 hours long. Though at some point during this time, her parents and her, really, decided that she should stop taking her medication. She was also malnourished because she stopped eating. She also broke her knees from praying so much. She was, on her knees all the time praying. She still believed that her purpose was to atone for the sins, like the Virgin Mary told her. And like I said, there's tapes of this. Most of the tapes in the recording, you can hear her, in a deep guttural voice, saying different things, and she is speaking sometimes in a different language, but it's pretty rough. Like you can hear. I don't know. We listened to it today.
Yeah, I listened to some of it.
The police. The priest believed there were multiple demons in her and that she had probably been possessed by demons for years. He also thought that she was, he didn't think it, they spoke to him. The demons that spoke to him, or the people that possessed her, was Cain, like Cain and Abel. Yeah. Also Judas was one of them. She also said that Hitler was one. There was a priest that she mentioned that was condemned from the Catholic Church, like long time ago, like in the 1817 whatever hundreds, because he wasn't really practicing his beliefs correctly. And she knew his name and she knew what he had done, which was weird because he wasn't really in any of like the Catholic textbooks or anything. Nobody, like, it wasn't something that people really talked about.
That's interesting.
The only way she would have known that, I guess, would have been if she was, she was really devout into her Catholic beliefs, but why would she go through like the library looking at, like, I don't know how she would, they don't really know how she would have found out his name, and she like said his full name and everything. So that was something that was really weird for them. They also said at some point that even Lucifer himself seemed to talk through her. There are hours of these recordings, like I said, and you can go find them. Anneliese believed that the Catholic Church becoming modernized was wrong. And what's crazy, like I said before, what's crazy is this is where people have a problem, because at some point the demons start saying like how the Catholic Church needs to go back to their traditions and stuff like that. And so people are kind of like, why would demons care?
Yeah.
Like, why would they
care about people going back and being good?
Like, they just want people to go to hell and suffer because they need more people in hell. Like, that's what we've always been told. So, why would that be something that they would bring up? But I digress.
It sounds like she's, like, just saying all this to get the church back to where it was, but also
kind of, but also she's
literally so weak. Like, how could you make yourself, I don't know,
do all this?
Yeah.
So people who attended the exorcism, besides the fathers, the priest and all that, said that there was a very heavy presence in the house because all this was done in her house, her parents' house. There are also photos of her. You can see them online, and we'll post some up, obviously, but she has black eyes basically because they're just so bruised. Broken teeth. Her body was deteriorating as time went on, and we'll post some pictures of like what she looked like. We'll post them on our Instagram of what she looked like right before when it started, and then after, and then during, and then after when she passed away. Even when she was so weak and barely able to eat and drink, though, she still had enough strength to keep the men off of her during the exorcisms and like push them off of her, and they had to hold her, several men to hold her down and stuff like that. So that's something that's kind of crazy. So even during all this, though, she said that she was going to starve to death and die because it was something that was meant to happen. She was also not taking her medication at the time, like I said, and she was basically making herself out to be like a martyr, like that she was gonna die for others' sins. Not that that's what she said, but that's what was going to happen eventually if people believed her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, the priest expelled some of the demons in one of the exorcisms, and she actually like vomited them up. And this happens a lot if you watch exorcism videos and different exorcisms. There's always like a bucket by them, and they do vomit. There's some on YouTube you can see as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and this is when the demons leave their body. But however, one of the demons that stuck around was Judas, because he kept communicating with the priest. In May, her parents took her finally to a psychiatric hospital, but she was only there for a week. They took her there because she wouldn't eat, and they thought maybe they could help her, but she screamed and yelled the whole time, and they finally just brought her back home. When she got back home, she started hurting herself, and things pretty much got even worse. There were still some demons in her body, and the exorcisms at this point had stopped working. Anneliese had said that in July she would be released of these demons, and her parents kept thinking, okay, well, we don't know what's going to happen, but maybe when July gets here, like, everything will be okay, because she keeps saying the whole time, like, I just have to make it to July. July 1st is when I have to make it, because that's when this will be all over with. Like, they are only going to stick around for so many months.
That's weird.
Which some people that have been possessed have said that before. Like, if they could come to, you know, they'll say
they have to keep going until a certain date.
Until a certain date or a certain,
that's interesting.
You know, time or whatever.
Yeah.
So, June 30th, Father Alt came to see her, and he talked to her, and then he knew that she was still possessed, but she seemed to be in some sort of good spirits for how she felt. But she still looked really bad. Unfortunately, that night, and it had already turned to July 1st, 1976, she died in her sleep.
Wow.
Of starvation, malnourishment, and dehydration.
So she got this date right, but like,
yeah, that's what's crazy. Like, she died July 1st,
that's
like that
crazy,
night
yeah.
when it turned July 1st. When she died, she was 23, and she weighed 68 pounds. So, interesting enough, she was not getting help by the exorcism or the medication. I mean, you know, neither one of them helped her. She never got, you know, the exorcism didn't cure her, and the medication didn't cure her, so it's kind of
Did the church
crazy.
hear about this also?
What?
Or do you know? Did the new church, like the church that changed their ways.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if everybody... Well, probably not, because it was kept secret. So not very many people knew what was going on with her.
Because I was wondering if they felt guilty or anything, or
Yeah.
if they did change their ways.
So, just like in the movie, though, they also believed that the medication was kind of keeping her demons trapped inside of her. Like, she was kept in this altered state by the meds.
Okay.
Yeah, and they said that in the movie as well, but there's no, like, in real life, there's no proof to prove that those meds were keeping her. So, essentially, what happens is, when you're possessed, your mind is able to go somewhere else, so your body doesn't go through the pain, so your body doesn't feel the pain and doesn't feel what's going on. But they were saying that the drugs were keeping her mind in a state where she could feel everything, and that's why she was so, you know, malnourished, and she couldn't eat, and every time she ate she felt like she was going to throw up, and she was just all this other stuff. So Father Alt and Father Renz, after she died, she had marks on her hands and feet, like stigmata, and that's when they said that that was proof that she had fulfilled her destiny and made it to heaven, and she was able to, you know. After her death, there was an investigation done to see if she would have been better off in a hospital or instead stay home and go through this exorcism. It was determined that yes, she should have went to the hospital as long as it took, and stayed there as long as it took for her to get better. The priest and her parents were also charged with neglectful homicide. And that's right, that's even what happens in the movie, except for it's just the priest, it's not the parents. But in this real life one, her parents and the priest were charged with that. They stood trial on March 30th, 1978, and it was, it got a lot of media coverage in Germany, but the Catholic Church paid for the priest's trial, and the parents got a really, prominent lawyer in Germany at the time. The recordings were played in the trial as well. They also had doctors to prove that she should have stayed on her medication and, she should have got the help that she needed, and that's why she died, because she was very mentally sick and ill. So in the end, they were all found guilty, and they were sentenced to 6 months in jail. However, their sentence got overturned into 3 years of probation. So they didn't spend any time in jail. They just had to spend time on probation. June 6, 2013, so not too long ago, the home of Anneliese caught fire, and some people in the community said that it caught fire because there was always evil presences lurking in the house. They could just feel and sense it. People still to this day visit her grave, though, and she's basically become a martyr for these people because they pray at her grave and they give her gifts and things like that. So yeah, that is the story of Anneliese Michel. It's a pretty crazy one.
Yeah, she seems like a very nice girl. That's so
I don't
sad.
know if I don't know. I won't ever say that someone wasn't possessed, because that's not for me to know or decide or whatever. But the thing about the demons wanting the church to go back to their traditional ways was a little weird. But even if she wasn't possessed, let's just say she wasn't, her parents did her an injustice by feeding into her psychosis, I guess you could say. And she was such a sweet person that and so devout as a Catholic and in her faith, that she wanted to do these things for humanity and atone, and and if she really was doing that because she was mentally ill, it's sad that she never got the help that she needed. But at the same time, if she was doing those things because she really was possessed, that's crazy too. So what do you guys think? If you've seen the movie, and if you've watched any document, there's also another movie, I think it was made in 2011 or something like that, but I haven't seen it. I tried to find a documentary because most of the stuff that I found was just different stuff on YouTube, or it was, reading stuff and things like that. And so I wanted to watch, and then of course I watched The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I watched it before, but I could not remember that movie to save my life. So I watched it again. It's a really good movie, though. I mean, I didn't think it was that good a long time ago, but I was also a teenager, and I was just like, yeah, this is boring. So, but now that I watched it as an adult, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. So anyways, yeah, let us know what you guys think about this case, because technically it is a case, and also an exorcism rolled into one, because if you believe that she was neglected, then technically it was homicide. So yeah, and we will be back next week, hopefully on Christmas Eve. Hopefully we'll have one for you guys. I don't know what we're gonna do. Maybe we'll try to do some. There's not really much
Christmas.
There's not really much Christmas stuff out there.
Really, yeah.
We've already done Krampus and all that other stuff, but
we'll think about it.
We'll think about it. So if there's anything that you guys would like to hear, just let us know. Aliens, monsters, whatever. We've done a lot of true crime lately, so we're trying to do some different stuff. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We're almost to 100 subscribers. I think we're at 92? Question mark? 93?
92.
No, it might be more than that. I think it's 94.
It's almost there. We
I don't
want
know.
to get to
I don't remember.
100 before the new year.
Yeah.
That's our New Year's revolution.
Our New Year's resolution is 100 subscribers. It's 92. So yeah, we want to get to 100 before the new year. So you help us do that. Go subscribe. Even if you don't watch us on YouTube, just go subscribe. It's fine.
Just hit it.
We'll eventually have our faces up there, so then you'll be able to see us.
Yes.
And go like us or go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Trying to think if there's anything else. I can't really think of anything. So we will see you guys next time. If we don't see you, have a Merry Christmas. But hopefully we'll have some episodes out there for you. But we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.